we went back out to the beach this morning, and before we went kayaking, and got more pictures of the wreck that we saw yesterday.
And that picture is better than what we had yesterday. The sun was on the other side of the wreck.
Yep. So then we did a 2-hour ranger-led kayak tour of Coffinberry Lake. And the lake is about a mile long, and we started in the middle and went all the way around both sides, obviously, because we did about 2 miles. It was the two of us and then a family of 5. And we just cruised, and he told us all about it. We saw osprey, we saw eagles, we saw this beaver lodge. It's not a dam because it's not in the middle of water. We just kind of cruised around. It was really a good talk.
And this lake, it actually dries up to a mud puddle on this end of it in the summertime.
Right.
Yeah. And then somebody caught the deer crossing.
There's actually 2 of them. I only got video of one.
And this lake has some story behind it.
Go ahead.
There's actually a picnic table that's buried underwater there. Somebody threw one in the water.
Yep.
I want to get snacks out of the van.
The deer is, not me. He was headed towards the shore where the van was. He wasn't too far from it.
So he said
she, I guess. And there she is on the land.
Yep.
Kind of cool watching her.
And then, like she said, we saw some eagles. And this one was flying, and it's flying pretty high.
You barely see it. There it is. And there was osprey, and then there was the limbo tree.
You had to go under. That tree has actually been down for over 10 years.
Yes.
And it's now growing from the side, growing up.
Yep.
So it actually, little trees where the limbs would be is what's growing there.
Yes. Raymond did a better limbo than I did.
My hat hit it.
He didn't tip over, though.
No. And then we saw an eagle.
Yeah.
And
this kind of, again, hard to see.
Hard to see. But he's up there in the tree. We sat there and watched him for a little bit.
There he is again. That's a little bit. You can kind of see the middle of the picture. There's a solid mass.
And there's something else in this lake that I'll tell you about later.
You almost got me.
Jim was trying to power stroke it up there and land on the beach, and she just couldn't get it on the way.
It wasn't for lack of effort.
Can we take it?
Then one of the mother of the family took a picture of us. We are on and going to drive across the Astoria Megler Bridge, and out at sea right now, a barge with wood chips from Coos Bay just went under. If you remember that video. Anyway, this is the bridge, and Raymond and I are both a little spooked about it. We were not spooked about the Golden Gate Bridge, and it is taller and longer. And as he said, there's more of a distraction on that bridge. You had people walking on the sides, things like that. Pedestrians are not allowed on this bridge whatsoever.
Look how shallow it is.
It is, yeah, it's a pretty shallow area. Of course, it's low tide too. So I don't know how deep the water gets at high tide. But this hill right here coming down off this bridge is a little nerve-wracking. I'm not going to film the whole thing. Just the scary part. So these are just some sealed and sea lions we saw.
On our way to
the Goonies house.
If you haven't seen the movie The Goonies, this part of the trip is about that. This house that you're going to see here shortly, it was in the movie.
Yes.
And the guy who owns it is a big supporter of a fan of the Goonies.
Yes.
So he's actually kept it decorated as they did in the show.
Yes.
Even the screen door, I'll show you that later, is torn in the way it is in the movie.
Yep. From where Chunk tore it, or the it was Data maybe.
Slid through the window.
Yep.
Everybody's there. I bet there was 50 people standing there around it when we were there, and there was, as we were leaving, there was more coming.
Yeah.
You can't drive up to around the house. You have to park down the street and walk up.
Right. But I mean, he's a super fan, so he appreciates the fans. He just, got to respect his privacy.
Then Jen saw another
A
pilot
boat
ship
that was outside the Maritime Museum.
And then we went to this lookout at the point. What do you call that?
The South Jetty.
The
South
jetty. Yep. And they're still adding on to that jetty. They have been working for how many years?
At least 5 years.
5 years, increasing, improving, and making that jetty better. And there was big trucks with one rock on it moving into that area. When we got to Estonia yesterday, Jen saw something in the water way off in that background. It was just like, she said, "What is that? Is that a beach, the sand? Is that white sand or what?" Later we found out is where the river meets the ocean. It was creating whitecaps. And I was hoping when we went out on this jetty that we would get out far enough that I could see where that river and ocean was colliding. And that's where a lot of those shipwrecks are.
So then we decided that we'd go try to see the bunker, and we found this trail and thought it went to the bunker. It did not. It was a dead-end road pretty much. And then we found this trail, and it did go to the bunker. There's me.
Looking around the corner.
It wasn't much of a bunker. I wasn't very impressed.
It was a lookout for the battery, I guess.
Yeah.
In the Second World War.
Yeah.
And there she is looking out the lookout hole.
Yeah.
And then we, on the way out, saw eagles.
We saw more eagles.
We saw a lot of eagles, and you're going to see several pictures. Because it's rare, I guess, that we get pictures of eagles like this. And this little guy was sitting there, and there was more flying over. You're going to hear that in a minute. They're talking to each other. And this one was not the video for it. It's about 2 slides later. But you can hear them. And I found out something. When you see an eagle on TV sometimes and you hear that screech is of a hawk that they put in over the eagle, because the eagle is not that hard of a sound.
Right. You'll hear him here in a minute.
And then here's the final shots of the eagle sitting there. I love that shot. And then he had one more that we caught flying here, and another one came by. And then before we left the parking lot, we noticed that there was 5 eagles flying around together. And the one finally flew off his nest, and they dive bombed to get something.
So this is Fort Stevens. This is the map. The campground is in this state park, and it is a huge state park. They actually told us that there's 550 campsites in this campground when it's full. And this is part of the bunker, and we think this was the barracks, but we're not sure. There was no signage to this bunker.
No map for it. I actually saw a place where they had stuff about it, but it was all empty. So I told you earlier that I tell you what's in the lake that we did the kayaking on. There's actually one shell from the Japanese that landed in that lake in the Second World War. This is the only land of the United States that the Japanese actually attacked. They dropped 17 bombs in a 7-mile range trying to hit this battery, and they missed it. And the battery wanted to fire back, asked the command if they could. The command said, "No, do not fire, do not fire." And they even threatened to leave. And they still told them that if you fire, you're going to be
court-martial.
And so they did not fire. They actually had some soldiers walk off the post and go AWOL because they weren't allowed to fire back upon the Japanese. And one reason, or a couple of reasons, was they couldn't fire is the Japanese had a 5-inch diameter shell that had a longer range than the 10-inch shell that these cannons had. So they could shoot from a longer distance, and we couldn't really hit them back. And I think that's part of it, but I think part of it was if they had fired back, it might have let them know that, hey, we're still alive, so you don't have to attack. Or if they were going to do a land attack by ground, then by not firing back, it make them think we're not here, and they were. So who knows the real story, but they did not fire back, and this is the only place it did get fired upon.
Yep.
And it was a neat place. I like these little places, and that's the end of it, I guess.
Yeah, there was very little signage, so it was hard to see hard to tell what was what.
What
but
was what,
you could
yeah.
kind of figure it out, especially
Yeah.
if you've been in more bunkers before.